Hi Katja, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me, Ashley.
So can you please tell us about yourself and the work that you do with Expat?
Well, I used to work in a bank for 9 years, but I was work in administration. I was a little bit different from what I do right now. And after that, I gained experience in many other fields, including teaching, which I really believe helps me now as well, because I believe that the important part or important role of a financial advisor is also to educate my clients so that they understand, what we're doing, why we're doing that, and so that they can also assess other information that they may find online, in the newspaper, on YouTube, wherever. And in financial consultancy, I've been working for the past 4 years, and 10 months out of that, I've gone independent with Forfin. So I work with various providers in the market.
Yeah, that's actually true when you say that you used to do teaching and now you do something else, and the skills are kind of transferable, because no matter where you are, which job you're doing, and if you want to change, you find that sometimes that the skills you can transfer to the new job.
Yeah, for sure, because sometimes people ask me like, why are you teaching anymore? You were good at that. And I say, well, I'm still kind of teaching.
Yeah.
It's just working with adults.
Yeah, and also the fact that when you start talking about financing or accounting, people start going like, such a boring topic. So you really have to be good at teaching to keep the audience captivated in what you're saying, because really talking about finance is not a fun topic for a lot of people.
Yeah, but the thing is, it can be really simple. You don't have to talk in terms that nobody understands and has to take a dictionary to even understand the meaning. When it comes to the persistence, when it comes to having a plan, when it comes to managing the risks. And very often people understand it better when you talk about a topic that is not exactly finance, but has the same principles. And suddenly, I've heard from a lot of clients already, it's actually not that difficult. So this is where I find that it really, really helps me.
I can already
understand a lot.
I can already tell you're a good teacher. The topic for today, we are trying to help expats do their personal budgeting to help them invest, which I think it's not as easy as it is if compared to when you're local. Because when you're an expat, you have to consider a lot of things involved. Do you pay tax here? Do you pay tax in your country? Or do you even have resources available in this foreign country that are in English that can help you? So it's a very important topic we're talking about today. But we'll first start with the simpler ones, which is, I think, personal budgeting. I see a lot of people struggling with that. Like the inflation has gone up in the past year, and people are struggling to keep up with their finances, especially if the income didn't increase as much as the inflation. So about personal budgeting, how do you go about to make a basic effective budget that you can use from day to day, and what exactly should be included there?
So the first thing that I would like to address is that for sure, the tax laws are different in different countries, so that may affect it. But on the other hand, and that's the positive side of things, is that the basic principles are really the same if you're living here, if you're living in America, if you're living in Italy. It just doesn't matter, because if you understand the principles, that's something that you can work with always. And then you just add up, the details about taxes and some local specifics. And about the budgeting, well, the first thing that you need to know is what my current spendings are. It's like this boring part, to be honest, because not a lot of people like to do that, but you just need to start somewhere, right? So there are a few ways how you can go about that. You can use a normal Excel spreadsheet. You can use applications such as Spendy, or some of the banks also have this tool within their internet banking where it just divides your expenses by certain
categories.
Yeah, that's the word. So that would be the first thing to look at. And to do so, you can really look at maybe last 2 months, and look at what the expenses are. And that's the way how you can also detect some of the financial viruses, which are really things that you don't even think of, like a Starbucks coffee, okay. But if it's 3 times a week, if you take Bolt twice a week, because you didn't want to, get up in the morning maybe, it doesn't seem like as much. But it's very similar as if you go shopping for groceries, right? You leave the shop, you look at the bill, it's 1,000, you're like, there's just a few things and each of them costs like 30 crowns. So that there must be a mistake somewhere, but it's not. It's just, accumulating. So that would be the first place to look at.
Oh God, yeah, I know with the groceries, I went to the Potravini behind our house the other day, and I even took a picture of the groceries that I bought. I swear to God, there were like 4 or 5 items, and I paid 437. I was like, what? I was like, where did I go wrong? And that was the correct bill.
No, I know. This is really being wild. The prices, and especially the groceries. I saw it myself. I was walking in the shop, I was like, what? Like this thing, I bought it last week for 35. Now it's suddenly 40. Like, how come? It seems, okay, it's just 5 crowns, but this adds up with everything that you buy. It's just for some time, and it hits everybody, really.
Yeah.
It hits everybody.
It's a harsh world we live in. Like the gas is just out of this world. Everything actually increased, the utilities.
For sure.
Everything.
For sure.
Yeah. So what are the different categories one has to include when making a budget?
Well, I would maybe look at it into groups, such as regular spendings. That could be subscriptions, YouTube, Netflix, whatever you pay on a regular basis, and the rent, which is every month the same, right? Then there are monthly expenses which value changes, like the groceries. Maybe 1 month you spend more, 1 month you spend less. And then there could be items that you only pay for once, maybe twice a year, such as a car service, such as holidays, such as Christmas shopping. So I would look into these first, but really, as I said also in the beginning, don't forget the small spendings that you do every day, like this coffee, or bar of chocolate because you feel stressed at your work. It's just good to really look at those and see where it is.
So those we put under a different category as daily expenses or under groceries. Where do you put these? Starbucks coffee, or I was walking around, I wanted a snack and I bought a snack, or I went out with my friends and we ordered lunch and I decided to eat there all of a sudden.
Yeah, like something like social spendings,
or
something like it doesn't really matter what you name it. It's more of really like keeping track of that and being able to work with it somehow. And also for some people, I also have clients who don't go by budgeting like, one category after the other, but they have an overall goal. Let's say I will not spend more than 25k a month. And I don't care on what it is, because sometimes it's more on the restaurants, sometimes it's more on the clothes, sometimes it's more on other things, but they just keep this and it also helps them. So it depends.
Yeah, I think as a starter, when you start making the budget, it's better to go with the second option where you just tell yourself, I'm not going to spend over this much this month. And then when you feel like you're confident enough because you have practiced with this second option, you can go to the option of putting it into categories so that you can see which category is taking a lot of your money and you can try to reduce in that category. So for example, if you tend to spend a lot on these Starbucks coffees and these daily social expenses, and you go over budget because of them, then you can try and see, okay, this category is giving me problems. I need to adjust it a little bit.
Yeah, could be. I mean, in general, it's good to start somehow,
Exactly.
whatever works for you. I know there have been times like that, and maybe when I pretend it's not there, it will just disappear. It's just like, I avoid, even like thinking about the topic. But what really, really helps you is when you have the motivation. Like you want to buy something nice for yourself, you want to buy a flat, you want to save for a new car, whatever. And when you identify the goals, that's usually the moment, and I hear it from a lot of clients who say, wow, like now that I have the goals, it actually, I don't have to spend so much on restaurants or whatever, and they don't feel restricted by that.
That is actually true. As humans, we love working towards a certain goal because it brings that satisfaction when we get there. But if there's no goal, it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna spend whatever comes. And for some reason, we love having these short-term goals, because saying I'm saving because I'm going to go on a trip in December to Italy, it's like, in a way, it's a short-term goal because it's like less than 12 months. But when you tell people we are saving now for 20 years, and everyone is like, 20
No, actually,
years.
it's not so bad. It's not so bad. What we work with is, some kind of graphic that usually when you hear the things and you see them at the same time, it changes your perception. And what we do there is we say, okay, if you want to, let's say, for example, about retirement, because that would probably be the goal like 20 or 30 years down the road. And if you say, even when I'm retired, I want to earn this amount of money, so that you have a specific goal. And then you can break it down into how much you would need to put aside every month.
What if you have fluctuating income and you want to make a budget? How do you go about doing that?
Well, you need to go about it a little differently, for sure. It depends if it's, something that I for sure earn every month, and then on top of that it changes. For example, if you have a job where you have this salary, and on top of that you have some commissions if you're
salesperson.
Yeah, for example. That would be a different situation. Also from somebody who doesn't know at all. Like it could be 10,000 one month, 120 the other month, and it just fluctuates a lot. In this case, you probably will need to have more emergency savings, and you would probably work towards the investments more as like bulk investments, where you look at the account maybe twice a year or once a year, and you say, this is what I was able to save, and then you go with that.
Would it work to say I would save a certain percentage no matter how much I get? If I get 120,000, let's say I save 20% of my income.
Sure.
So even if it's 50, 20% of that.
You can do it like that. Like the recommended amount is 10%. 20% is like really, really good, but it could be like scary, because imagine you make 100K and you put 20 away. It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
What I used to do was also to look at, okay, this is how the month went, and this is what was left in the end of the month, and I would just keep investing, not the same amount every month, but 1 month I could put away 2,000, the other month maybe 5, and I just went with the flow.
Now, a lot of people, you'll find that they create a budget, sort of like how people make resolutions at the end of the year, and then around February, March, they forget about the resolutions. Same thing with budget. They'll make a budget to say, this is how I'm gonna be, and then around 15, they forgot everything about the budget. They're back into their old ways. How would you advise people who find themselves in the situation that they should stick to the budget and continue into the next month?
Well, actually, there's quite an easy thing that you can do here is when you are postponing actually saving the money till the end of the month, like whatever is left, I will just save or I will invest. You can make it the other way around. So what I do with a lot of my clients is that we set up the standing orders for their investments for the first day after they receive their salary. A certain amount of money goes either into investments or towards your savings account, and automatically your head starts calculating with a lower amount already. So that can be like a little trick, for the mind. But other than that, it's really similar to any other routine. As you also mentioned, could be about gym, could be about eating, could be about whatever, and the only thing that's left is always to get back on the route, and not to be like too strict with yourself, because also with the food, for example, there's this 80-20 rule that works for a lot of people. Like you stick to a certain routine for 80% of the time, but 20% is like your guilty pleasure, and with that it's much more sustainable for the people, and it could be the way about finances as well. Like you don't want to be a monk. It should be really something that works for you.
Yeah, I read this book by Tony Robbins, The 7 Keys to Financial Freedom. And he talked about that part where he's saying having a stop order or standing order that comes every month. And they made an example with this experiment where they gave one monkey an apple, and the monkey was so happy, and they gave the other monkeys 2 apples and they were so happy. And then they took 1 apple from the other monkeys and they were so sad. Even though they still have 1 apple, they were just so sad. It's the same principle that if the money comes to you 100,000 and then someone takes it back to invest, you are like not happy. But if they take the money to invest before it gets to you, or how you have a standing order, it's a little bit better than you taking it out of your pocket and going to invest.
For sure, for sure. It just works. Like, you know, my clients tell me, and they are so proud of themselves, you know, when they say, oh, actually I put a standing order because also what I want them to do always is to have some emergency savings in their savings account, and sometimes this is not even the case. It gives you a nice feeling that if something happens, you can really rely on yourself.
Yeah. Are there things, like key things people should remember when making a budget?
Good question. I think mostly include it all. Also include, you know, like the yearly spendings that you have, because this will change the whole thing. And I think the rest we pretty much covered already.
Yeah, because I think there's this misconception that every time people hear the word budget, they think you just have to live in a stringent kind of manner where you have to watch, I mean, you do have to watch where you're spending, but it kind of has this negative effect of thinking now you're not going to have a coffee, now you're not going to do anything, and people just don't like living in a world where everything is.
Yeah, but it's the same with discipline. If you hear the word discipline, it usually like stars this attitude in you, like, this is something that I don't want. But it's really more about like the feeling about that. I think it's just to change it little by little. The mindset. And also when you actually, you know, find something that you want more than spending all your money at this minute, when you actually have the goal, somehow it doesn't like feel bad to restrict yourself in a way, because you have this goal that you're working towards, and it's really about the delayed gratification.
So basically budgeting does not mean being a minimalist.
No. Well, you can be if you want to. There are people for whom it just works perfectly fine, but it doesn't mean that you, I don't know, stop living social life, whatever.
So what happens when you go over budget? It's very demotivating to set yourself this budget. I'm going to spend this much every month, and you come back to see your total expenses. You realize, oh my God, I'm way over budget.
No, I think there's really this thing where you maybe like keep separate cash flows on your checking account and on your savings account, and you just keep on your checking account just as much as you want to spend. That will help you a bit. Don't go for credit cards because they will just ruin your life. And the rest is really more of like your attitude. Actually, if you fail at anything, what do you do if you fail at your diet? How do you feel when you fail at your budgeting? This is not a financial topic that much, but it's more about work with yourself.
True.
And being nice to yourself as well.
Being kind to yourself, not to be too strict. I mean, budgeting is important because it all starts there, so you know how much to invest.
For sure.
But investing, you need to do your research before you invest. You need to know who to invest with, and they need to be trusted. These are your life savings. So the first question when it comes to investing is, should people save or invest? What's your take on those two?
Now the question is, if you should save money on your savings account from now on till your pension, till your retirement, would you just keep the money in your bank account?
Probably not.
Why?
I would just use it. I feel like I want to buy a new mic. I will be tempted to buy a new mic and say I'm gonna replace it next month.
Okay, but maybe you have, you know, so much money that buying a mic is not a thing, and there is still money left over. Like if you spend and you buy whatever you want, you're still left with 20k a month.
Yeah.
Would you, in that case, keep it in the bank account, or would you look for other alternatives?
Other alternatives, because you know the power of compounding.
For sure, yeah, that's it.
Compounding interest.
And that's actually the answer to your question as well, because saving is good for like short run. It's good for like your every month, like monthly expenses. You should have some money on your savings account. When you're employed, it's set to be 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, but anything more than that should go into investments, because the interest rate that you can get on your investments in comparison to the savings accounts is just much higher. Of course, right now, when you can get a savings account with 5.5% at some of the banks, it seems like, wow, it's actually, you know, much better. But there are two things to watch out for here. First one is that even when the banks make an offer like that, it's time limited for sure. They can change it any time. And the thing is, you usually have a maximum amount. So they say, okay, we give you 5.5% up to X amount of money, and whatever is the rest on top will give you 0.1 or 0.01%. So, not all your money really works.
You're making money for them.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, the interest rates on savings account will only remain as high until the Czech National Bank changes their interest rates. So this is not a thing forever. Maybe for the next 9 months, 1 year, it should make sense. And it also depends when you need the money back. If I know that I'll be buying a car in 6 months' time, I wouldn't probably do much more with the money than putting it in a savings account. But if I know that I want to buy a house in a 5-year period of time, that's too long for a bank account or for a savings account, and I would look for other alternatives already. And also you talked about the inflation, and you could say, oh, actually, inflation last year was like what, 16%, and I can get 5.5 on a savings account. It doesn't even matter. But it actually does, because your money is either minus 16% for the last year, or maybe minus 11, because you minimized just by a little, the effect of inflation.
And how about those people who still use the old system where you put your money in the bank for a fixed period of time, say 5 years, you cannot access it, and they just lock it in there and it comes back, it doesn't even have a lot of interest.
The thing is also, it doesn't give you much flexibility, does it? And the other thing is also regarding the taxes, because when you go with term deposits, when you go with bank accounts, savings accounts, all the gained interest is subject to income tax. Whereas in Czech Republic, when you're a Czech tax resident, you can use some of the ways to invest where after some time you don't have to apply taxes on those gains anymore. So there are a few more things to think of.
I think we're going to get to that topic actually, the tax on investment gains, is to see how it works in Czech Republic in terms of that. I think my next question is from the perspective of an expat. Should expat really invest when they're living in Czech, or do they have the pension for foreigners? How does it work? Are they eligible for the pension?
Well, with the pension, there are some rules that I can't tell you a detail of, like every single country. Wouldn't work. It's an easy solution for EU citizens, because within the EU there is a system of the pensions that's the same for everybody, so that would be much easier. But on top of that, Czech Republic also has agreements with some of other countries where they somehow calculate the time of you having worked in that particular country with the time of you having worked in the Czech Republic. And I remember you also wanted to know if it's actually enough, on the pension, right, that you will get.
You can just depend on the pension and not save? Invest?
Well, the thing is that how the pension system actually works is that you, as somebody who is working at the moment, be it an employee or be it a self-employed person, you contribute every month into a budget from which the pensions of the elderly are being paid out. Okay. When you look at the age, there's actually less younger people and more older people. And that means that actually this tank or bank of this money is getting smaller with time. So the question is, what will happen 20 years down the road? Will there be still the same budget, or will it be lower? Will you be able to actually retire at 65 as you are right now in Czech Republic, or will you be able to retire at 68, 70? And do you really want to work for so long? Or do you want to prepare a budget for yourself and say maybe at 55, you know what, I'm done, I want to travel and be able to do that. What the pensions look like at the moment, it's not very much comparable to the income that you can make right now.
That's a nice plan. So how do you go about investing when you are an expat? Do you let the professionals handle it for you, or you can do it on your own? And if they are professionals who can do it for you, how do you go about getting to find them, and how do they assist in that?
Well, the thing is that for everybody it will probably be a different solution. Some people prefer to educate themselves do the decision just themselves. And as for the ways how to do that, you can go through an app for sure. You can go through your banker, and you can go through an independent person, like a financial advisor or a broker. Each of these options has the specifics. If you go through an app, there's the risk that I see with a lot of people who decide to invest by themselves but don't know exactly like the rules by which the market goes, is that first thing you see that the market is falling down, you start being nervous and you tend to withdraw before you like lose everything. But the lose everything may only mean, you know, there's just like the little change in the value, and maybe you could just wait it out a little bit. So that's the risk, I think, that you're running like that. And you can then go through banks. Again, the banks, what I feel there is the risk of, if you work for a certain bank, you only have a certain range of products that you can use, and you don't know about other offers in the market, neither can you offer them. So it's really limited in this. But what I can say from working in the insurance company where I worked before I came to Forfin is that you also have these monthly plans. You have this plan of, oh, we need to put this and this much money into this product. We need to do so many agreements of this product. And that leads to you not necessarily always having the client's best interest in mind, but going, oh, you have 2 million in the bank account. Aha, this is not fulfilled yet. I have a nice product for you that you would really love, but it's actually not that you would love it, but it's that, you know, I will say, okay, done, and maybe I get promoted or I get some extra bonus from the company. So you're always running this risk. And the third way to go about would be brokers or, you know, financial advisors. The good thing here is that you have a wider portfolio of products that you can work with the clients. And you as a client, you would probably be interested in, like, how do I trust the person? How do I know that what he's saying to me or she's saying to me is true? I would go by references, as always. Like, really go by references. Don't go just by one person telling you, oh, actually he's great, but he doesn't have any client references on the internet. So go by that and go by your feeling as well. Make an informed decision on this.
That was very informative. I have, as I said, I've read the book by Tony Robbins when it talks about investing, and he touches a lot on how banks, a short way to put it is they never have the client's interest at heart. They have their own interest at heart. And with the brokers, there is always the brokerage fee that you have to consider, because some brokers, they will charge commission based on maybe how much you make, which means they get a cut from that. And they also have sometimes the cost that they charge at the beginning, the initial cost. Some charge that, some don't.
Actually, with the opening fee, the thing is that very often the banks don't charge it, but they just get the money, you know, through other means. So it may seem as it's more favorable, but then you look into the details of the fund and you say, oh, and they take like 15% of, you know, whatever the fund makes, they take for themselves. On the other hand, it's really important to see what you're getting for the money. Because with the opening fee, for sure, like some of that goes to the investment company, some of that goes to the broker, but it's actually money that he gets for the time that he spends with you, for you being able to get in touch with him at any point of time.
What are the available investment options for Czech expats here? Are they accessible to the US market, for example?
They will be very different. The US market has very different rules, especially when it comes to the taxes. It's just a very different system. And as for the other products, for sure, like you can buy stocks, you can go into mutual funds, either for stocks, for bonds, or for the property market, or ETFs.
Oh yeah.
You can also use the chance to use the supplementary pension funds here in Czech Republic. Very often the employer contribute to that. You can buy gold, you can go for investment life insurance. There's just plenty of options. But you should always have your plan in mind, you know, the time frame that you have for that, and based on that you can start.
Which one would you recommend between ETF, stocks and mutual funds?
That's a good question. Well, What I would try not to do is to go for stocks of a single company, for example. Like you're, a fan of Elon Musk, you think Tesla is a wonderful thing, and you put all your money towards that. So you also need to diversify for sure. And as for mutual funds or ETFs, I think like the ETFs show to be much more effective than mutual funds because you just go with the market. It's important to know though as well is that when the market falls, you fall by as much. So last year, the market, like when you take the global market, fell by 18%, and so did the global ETFs. And for example, the actively managed mutual funds fell by 14% only because somebody like this, portfolio manager put a brake on and they didn't fall by quite as much. But on the other hand, when the market grows, with ETFs, you grow as much. And with the actively managed funds, they usually really fall behind. So I think when you understand what it is, what are the principles, and when your time frame is long enough, ETFs are a way to go.
A lot of people actually recommend ETFs because of what you just said with the market going down and up, because they kind of go with the index basically. Is it possible to invest straight into ETFs as an individual in my house when you're in Czech Republic, especially those in US, or you can invest in those in Europe market ETFs?
Well, the thing is that technically you can invest into the American market without going through the American indexes directly.
Okay.
Maybe it's like too confusing when I say it like that, but it's actually because when you invest directly in US, you underlie the US rules and it just runs differently. But you can really invest in the European market into the American ETFs without having to deal with the American tax system. So it's doable for sure, either through an app or you can go through a broker.
And what if you use these other firms like Vanguard, for example?
Not much experience with that, to be honest.
Now, the other part what we wanted to talk about is the taxes. Oh my gosh, I hate taxes. It's like, for me, I don't understand because sometimes it feels like you are paying tax on tax on tax. You pay tax when you earn your money, you pay tax when you buy at the grocery shop because you pay tax via VAT, and then you invest and then you pay tax on your gains. You buy property and then you sell it and then you pay tax on property. It's just tax never ends.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's really crazy. But actually there's a positive thing that a lot of expats are surprised by. When it comes into stock market or going through mutual funds, there's actually a nice thing in the Czech Republic which says, if the money has been invested for 3 years and longer, you don't have to pay taxes on the returns anymore.
Oh, really?
Which is really nice. Works perfectly fine as an example for bulk investments.
Yeah.
So let's say you have 1 million Czech crowns, and after 3 years with all the returns, it's 1,250,000, for example. You just take that, you don't have to worry about tax at all. When you do regular investments, like monthly amounts, the 3 years start for each of the investments separately. So, June 2023 to June 2026, and so on. So this is a different thing, but there's one other rule in place as well, which says, if it's a shorter period than 3 years, but it's not more than 100,000 Czech crowns that you withdraw from the investments, you also don't have to pay the tax on the returns. So let's say you invest 1 million and after 9 months something happens and you need to withdraw 90k for something, you take it again, you don't worry about the taxes. If it was at the end of the year and you would need 150, let's say, and you would come to me and ask for advice, I would tell you, do you need the 150 right now? Or is it okay if you get it maybe all in January? And then we would do 90, 95, whatever, withdraw in December, and then the rest we withdraw in January, and with that you are below 100k every year and you don't have to worry about taxes again.
It really helps to know the rules and the exceptions to the rules because it helps you.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wanted to know if your investment matures but you've already left the Czech Republic, what happens then if you go to a country that doesn't have these rules?
You need to go by the local local rules always. Like wherever you're a tax resident, you need to go by that.
And what's the minimum one needs to have in order to invest every month? What's the minimum you can invest?
This is actually a good question because there's a lot of misconception about that, and I've talked to my client lately, and she was like, "Wow, I would like to invest into this, but I don't have so much money." And I say it's 500 for a regular investment, so like a 500 a month if you do regular investments, and it's 10,000 Czech crowns, which is not too much for bulk investments.
Yeah.
And she was looking at me, she was like, well, I thought I would need to have millions, if I wanted to go for that. So actually there's no need to postpone it, up to like, okay, I will contact you when I have X amount left. It's really good to start with something at least.
And the mistakes that people tend to make when investing, what are the ones that they have to avoid?
Well, the question maybe directs into like when do people actually lose their money? Because there's a lot of fear about that. And actually it is said that the biggest risk for an investor is the investor himself, always. And the usual reasons why a loss occurs is first, you choose a wrong form of investment, meaning you need your money back in 2 years and you go into stock market and you're not a pro and you can't predict the market so well. The second one would be that you don't diversify, and I already said it. You put all your money, like all your eggs into one basket, never works. Or maybe it could, but it's more of a casino game. Maybe you lose it all, and maybe you gain a lot. I'm not sticking to the original plan for sure. Like being afraid that now we've had one bad year, and you don't think about you have 15 more to come. Yeah. But the one bad year makes you so scared, and maybe you don't have the advisor on the phone, or he tells you, oh, that's okay, and he doesn't, take your concerns seriously. That would be another reason. Together with that is also emotional buying and selling. Sometimes you're like too excited about something, you go all in.
Also, you touched on the point of risk, being able to take on the risk and not to take your money out after you see the stock going down. And this is an important point because when it comes to women, especially the study that was looking into female CEOs and male CEOs, trying to compare which ones are better when it comes to overall company performance, it found that female CEOs are risk averse, but males tend to take risk. And this also kind of goes into our personal lives because women started investing in recent years. It has always been a men's world. Investing, the Wall Street has always been a men's world. And now it's interesting to see because women are getting into investment, especially millennials. And the thing that we probably have to work into is not being so much risk averse because we tend as women to be like, okay, my money is going to go away and I'm going to take it out. And if we can just work into that, I think will be great.
Yeah, sure. Also, the thing is, I think when you understand the rules and what it is when the market goes down, you see it as an opportunity. The stock market is actually the safest way how to go about investments.
Yeah, I think you just have to understand the principal rule of the stock market is that it's unpredictable. No one ever knows what's going to happen. What you need to do is understand the art of buy, hold, and sell. When do you buy, when do you hold, and when do you sell your stock? And as you said, a lot of people, when the market goes down, that's when they sell, when they should be buying, especially if the company is bound probably to come back. Again, you never know what's going to happen.
And the other thing is, also you talked about when people sell, but actually the same with when people buy. Because for a lot of people, they see, the value is growing, and they actually very often buy when it's at the peak. And then next morning, not a nice surprise. And there's really like a handful of people in the world who are able to predict what the market will look like.
True.
It's not the people like the general public.
True, and then you talked earlier about investing with banks or stocks or indexes. I don't know if you heard, but I read the news that the Silicon Valley Bank is shut down, and the insurance can only cover up to 250,000. It means that you had money over 250,000 US dollars, you're not going to get it back. And what about those people who were investing there and those people who are keeping payroll and everything there? It's going to affect a lot of businesses and people in general.
But also the thing is, with this insurance, because the same thing exists for sure, like in Czech Republic as well, right? And what it says here is that up to 100,000 euro that you have as an individual in a bank is covered by this bank insurance. But the secret is that if big banks such as Česká spořitelna or Komerční banka failed, there wouldn't be enough money to cover all of the people. So that's one more reason for not keeping all your money in a bank, let alone in one bank.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate the work that you do with Expats, because I know it's really hard to find English-speaking resources for anything here in Czech Republic.
No, I'm very happy that I have this opportunity, and I'm happy that actually at this moment I have like 80% of my clients who are expats.
Nice.
And I love working with them. So yeah, definitely happy to also have this opportunity to share my knowledge.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, Ashley.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want to be a part of our Dear Ladies Network community, visit our website www.dearladiesnet.com or follow our socials on Instagram and Facebook at dearladies.network. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes. Until next time, bye.